Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take, a huge stack of sources, articles, notes, all of it, and we try to just boil it down into something you can really use, some focused, crystal clear knowledge.
Exactly.
And today we are strapping in for a really fascinating look at transformation, self-love, and, the very public evolution of one of the greatest athletes of all time, Serena Williams.
That's right. And our mission today is really to go beyond just the headlines. We want to understand the intellectual and the physical journey she's been on recently.
Okay, so what are we focusing on specifically?
Well, we're looking at the structured timeline of her physical transformation, the whole mindset of self-love that she championed at different stages, and, this is the critical part, the specific details around her medical approach to losing a significant amount of weight.
Right, so we have sources talking about the 31-pound weight loss, her use of medication,
Yeah.
specifically a GLP-1 treatment.
Exactly. And her candid interviews where she talks about moving from one stage of body acceptance to a totally different one, it's a lot to unpack.
It is, because this is so much more than just a story about a number on a scale. It's about, this shifting complex narrative. It starts with self-acceptance, and then it evolves into this proactive agency.
All wrapped up in a visually stunning high-fashion package.
Yes, and we're synthesizing all this material that highlights this fascinating duality, embracing the post-birth body one moment, and then rigorously researching scientific intervention the next. It's quite the journey.
It is. It's just so compelling because these sources give us this rare chance to track a public figure's relationship with her own body in, almost real time.
Yeah.
You see the vulnerable post-birth phase, that acceptance of imperfection, and then you see it contrasted with this incredibly polished fashion statement. It's a declaration of control, really.
And speaking of that declaration, we have to start there. We have to start with the visual hook that kicked this whole deep dive off, the big reveal.
The Porter magazine shoot.
The Porter shoot. Serena Williams, she's 44, modeling for their latest issue, and the results of that 31-pound weight loss are, they're undeniably the star of the show.
Oh, the visual impact is huge, and the sources really paint a clear picture. The whole shoot feels meticulously styled to be this triumphant declaration of confidence.
It seems so intentional.
Completely. It was designed to highlight the effectiveness of her transformation and the power she felt in her body.
Absolutely. So let's really get into the standout looks, because the clothes here aren't just clothes, right? They're part of the narrative she's presenting.
100%.
One of the key shots our sources describe has her standing next to a swimming pool, and she's wearing what they call a bold cutout swimsuit. That's an item of clothing that demands attention.
Precisely. The source material notes that she just oozed body confidence. The focus was explicitly on the physical results of what she'd done. They highlight her incredible figure, and they draw specific attention to her strong legs and sculpted arms.
Which, for an athlete, even a retired one, has to carry so much symbolic weight.
Enormous symbolic weight. It's like
Yeah.
a return to that powerful physical identity that defined her entire career, but on her own terms now, in a fashion context.
And it wasn't just the athletic swimwear. The sources detail a range of high-fashion looks that really played up her new silhouette.
Yeah, like the black skin-tight dress.
Right, the one they said hugged her curves in all the right places.
Yeah.
That's such a deliberate choice. It's about celebrating that physical change with clothes that are designed specifically for that form.
And then you have the other side of it, the high fashion edge, moving away from the form-fitting to something more architectural.
The 80s-inspired leather jacket.
Yes, the oversized leather jacket with those incredibly strong shoulders, paired with sheer tights and sky-high heels, that signals not just fitness, but like a real engagement with fashion. Total control over how she presents herself.
The whole look, the blonde hair, what the sources call a winning smile, and appearing on cloud nine, it all underscores the public nature of this. This wasn't something she did in private.
No, this was the culmination. But that confidence didn't just appear overnight. It followed this whirlwind of personal events in 2025, right after she revealed the details of her weight loss.
And to get the full picture, you have to go back. You have to look at the self-love narrative that she had already built before any of this.
Exactly. To really appreciate the Porter shoot, you need the context of what came right before it. The whole transformation really follows a journey that started a year prior, with the birth of her second daughter, Adira.
That context of motherhood is so crucial. Serena's always been transparent about her body, but the sources really emphasize her candor during that immediate post-birth phase.
Unparalleled candor.
Right. Before she even started thinking about a rigorous weight loss journey, she was just navigating the immediate aftermath of childbirth. And she was so public about that stage, too.
She used her platform to normalize the reality of a postpartum body. And that's a reality that is so often, sanitized or just completely hidden in celebrity culture.
Especially for someone whose entire career was built on physical perfection.
It was a radical act of public vulnerability. And that's the foundation, really, for her message of self-love. That's where it all started.
So let's unpack that key Instagram caption. The one from the year before the 31-pound loss was revealed. This is like her defining statement on self-love before the transformation.
It is. The main theme she was pushing was loving yourself is essential. And then she adds that she needs to remind myself of that self-love through all different stages in my life.
That specific phrase, through all different stages in my life, feels so important. It's like the anchor for this whole deep dive.
It is. It gives her and her audience permission to shift their goals. It says that how you define self-love can change depending on where you are in life.
Whether you're at Wimbledon or you're recovering from childbirth. And the specific things she said about her post-birth body are what made that message resonate so much. She was so explicit about rejecting that aesthetic pressure. She said, "Right now, I love that my body is not picture perfect."
I mean, what a massive statement. Coming from her, an individual whose entire professional life was about physical optimization and peak performance.
It's a message that prioritizes acceptance over everything else.
Yeah.
And the details she shared they were so intimate and memorable.
You're talking about the milk comment.
The milk comment. She said, "I love that I smell like milk, that milk sustains at Adirahanian."
But detail, the smell of milk, it's beautiful and it's grounding. It's so visceral.
It completely strips away the celebrity facade, right?
Yeah.
It grounds this abstract idea of self-love in the biological reality of being a mother. It wasn't about what her body looked like. It was about what her body was doing.
And she framed that physical change not as a loss, but as growth. She talked about loving, getting to know a new version of my body. She called the change well worth it.
So in that moment, self-love meant celebrating function, connection, maternal purpose, not aesthetics.
Right. And she didn't just keep that message to herself. She ended that post by encouraging her huge audience. So start this week knowing that you are loved, and that starts with you.
And then she adds this fascinating PS. It's almost a paradox. She says, "Okay, now I'm about to go to the gym, Serena."
Which is so Serena. She's not ignoring discipline, but she's putting acceptance and grace first. That comes before the work.
So that's the setup. And the transition from that emotional stage loving the new version, the body that's not picture perfect, to deciding to seek medical help is the crucial next step in the narrative.
And the sources are clear that she did try to lose the baby weight naturally at first. She was leveraging the same discipline that made her a champion.
So we have this phase one, it's emotional and physical acceptance, and it's paired with trying the familiar route of diet and hard training.
But eventually, something shifted. Either the goal changed, or maybe the natural approach just wasn't working as fast as she wanted or needed it to.
And that's where the story pivots. It turns into this deep dive into advanced medical options.
And that movement from trying the natural way to seeking high-level medical help is what makes her journey so relevant right now, because it puts her right in the middle of this huge cultural conversation about weight management and these new treatments.
She made the same strategic calculation that millions of other people are making.
Exactly.
Which brings us to, I think, the most complex and critical part of this story. The practical, researched steps she took. So after the natural efforts didn't get her where she wanted to be, the sources say she turned to a specific company for guidance.
Right, the healthcare company Roe.
And that decision to go with a structured healthcare company, it just underscores how serious and professional her approach was.
It wasn't a fad diet. This was expert physician-led guidance. And that process led her to evaluate and then ultimately commit to a specific kind of treatment.
And the sources are very specific here. The treatment chosen was a GLP-1 treatment. And for everyone listening, we should probably give some context.
Yeah, GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. The sources reference this class of drugs, which has, it's completely revolutionized obesity management. They cite the well-known examples like Ozempic and Mounjaro.
And it's really important for us to reiterate here, we are only talking about this in the context of the sources and what they say about her decision. We're not, offering any kind of medical advice or endorsement.
Absolutely not. But that scientific context is vital to understand the rigor of her choice. Choosing a GLP-1, a class of medication that has dominated health conversations for the last few years, shows she was engaging with the absolute cutting edge of weight management science.
But the sources also make it really clear this wasn't a quick or easy decision for her.
Not at all. Far from it. This wasn't a snap decision. The sources really focus on her critical, almost investigative approach. They say she was hesitant before starting, and she emphasized over and over that she did a lot of research.
The kind of deep dive research we try to do here.
Exactly. And her internal dialogue, which she shared publicly, is so valuable. She was asking the same questions, ethical, practical, scientific, that millions of people are asking themselves right now.
She was a highly informed patient.
Completely.
So let's break down those questions she asked herself. First, she takes on the biggest social stigma head on. Is this a shortcut?
That question right there acknowledges the cultural baggage, the pressure around using medication for weight loss versus the idealized story of just pure diet and brutal exercise.
By even asking if it was a shortcut, she's assessing the integrity of the whole process, which, for someone whose identity is built on rigorous, hard work, is a huge deal.
And she followed that up with these pragmatic, risk-based questions that really show her athlete's mindset. She asked, what are the benefits? And just as importantly, what are not the benefits?
That shows a really formal, almost clinical evaluation process. She wasn't just thinking about the outcome. She was deeply interested in the mechanism and the potential trade-offs.
Of course. An athlete has to worry about things like muscle loss, energy levels, long-term systemic effects. Her research into the not benefits probably included a deep dive into side effects, what happens long-term, and all the potential risks.
I mean, it's exactly what you would expect from someone who spent their whole life meticulously managing their body's performance.
And she said she really wanted to dive into it before I just did it. That phrase, dive into it, it just perfectly mirrors the thoroughness she applied to her research. She needed to be fully informed and accountable for her choice.
And her professional background must have just amplified that need for all the data.
Yeah.
Elite athletes, they rarely take a risk without understanding the full spectrum of outcomes.
She wasn't looking for a quick fix that might jeopardize her health. She was looking for a researched, effective, modern tool to reach a goal, just like an athlete uses advanced physical therapy or nutritional science.
So let's talk about the timeline and the logistics of the treatment itself. Because it wasn't something she could just start right after giving birth. There was a waiting period.
A necessary and, I think, a highly ethical waiting period tied directly to her role as a mother. The source material confirms she had to wait until she was completely done with breastfeeding.
Which happened when her daughter, Adira, was 6 months old.
And that detail is so crucial. It shows her priorities. She put her daughter's nourishment first and followed health guidelines before she introduced any medication into her own system. It just reinforces how careful and structured this whole decision was.
So once that 6-month mark passed, she was able to start the treatment.
Right. And the regimen involved weekly injections. So that schedule itself represents a continued, sustained commitment. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process of managing her body and sticking to the medical program.
And the outcome, at least as it's presented in the sources, is overwhelmingly positive from her perspective.
Absolutely. After the structured process, she lost 31 pounds, so significantly over 30 pounds. And she publicly stated that she now feels better than ever.
That final statement is really the ultimate validation for her decision, right? It confirms that the research and the commitment, it all paid off, both physically and mentally.
So you can track the entire journey, from embracing the challenging postpartum body to trying and maybe plateauing with natural methods, to doing major research on advanced medicine, waiting until it was medically appropriate, starting the weekly commitment.
And ultimately achieving this significant, highly public physical transformation. The whole journey from, smelling like milk to being on Cloud 9 in Porter Magazine is incredibly structured and thought out.
A to B. It's all there.
So as we move into the conclusion here, we have to bring it all together. What does this whole whirlwind of a year tell us about the definition of self-love and body confidence right now in the modern age?
Well, you have these two very distinct but equally powerful public phases of her confidence.
Phase 1 was rooted in what you could call radical acceptance, publicly embracing the post-birth body, being vulnerable about smelling like milk, celebrating a body that was not picture perfect.
That phase was fundamentally about acknowledging the sacrifice and the function of maternal change, defining self-love as grace.
And then you have phase 2, which was rooted in proactive agency.
Right. rigorously researching modern medical intervention, losing the 31 pounds, and then confidently showcasing the results in a major fashion shoot like Porter.
And in that phase, self-love is defined as action.
And what's so fascinating about the sources is they suggest this isn't a story about her shaming her previous body. It's a story about having the confidence to be authentic at different evolving stages of your life.
Right. In the first stage, self-love meant embracing the change that happened to her.
And in the second stage, self-love meant seeking proactive change using this researched GLP-1 treatment.
So the theme that connects them is the confidence to be authentic in both moments, no matter what the public thinks.
Exactly. She had the confidence to be vulnerable about physical imperfections and the equal confidence to use modern medical science to get to her desired state of wellness.
Which is such a sharp contrast to so many other celebrity narratives, where they either hide the transition or they falsely claim the weight loss was purely natural.
Her candor just demystifies the whole process for millions of people who are thinking about similar health decisions. By detailing the steps, the hesitation, the research, the waiting period, the injections, she provides a much more honest and responsible blueprint than we usually get from celebrities.
It's like the sources are implying that her decision to be so public about using a medically assisted path redefines what self-care even means.
It suggests that self-love, especially in a complex biological situation, can and maybe even should involve using scientific tools rather than just relying on traditional willpower.
So to wrap up, let's just highlight some of those final nuggets of knowledge, those
Mm.
specific memorable details that really make this story stick. The first one, which we have to reinforce, is the 44-year-old athlete's rigorous research process. The fact that she articulated her own questions. Is this a shortcut? What are the benefits and not the benefits? That transforms her. She's not just a celebrity endorser. She's a thoughtful, discerning consumer of cutting-edge healthcare.
It shifts the entire focus from the tool itself to the process of making an informed decision. And that level of inquiry is the real takeaway for anyone listening. Do your research, question the cultural narratives, and really understand the full spectrum of any treatment before you proceed.
And the second key nugget is purely visual, but it's just as impactful. It's the specific fashion choices in that Porter shoot.
The juxtaposition.
Exactly. The deliberate juxtaposition of the bold, form-fitting cutout swimsuit proudly showing off the sculpted physique of Phase 2.
Right alongside that intellectual, oversized, 80s-inspired leather jacket, those images are the powerful visual endpoint of her stated goal to feel better than ever.
It shows a mastery of both her physical form and her public image.
It's a sophisticated and I think a very fitting conclusion to a transformative year that was marked by honesty and scientific agency.
That brings us to the end of this incredibly detailed deep dive into Serena Williams' journey. Her transformation, her self-love, and her candid use of these advanced medical treatments. Thank you for sharing these sources with us. They gave us a really nuanced look at a very public figure's private journey.
No, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to synthesize all this. The sources offered a rare glimpse into the complexity of modern self-care, mixing that profound biological acceptance with highly structured scientific intervention.
Before we sign off, we always like to leave you with one final, provocative thought to mull over, building on these complexities we've just discussed.
Okay, so we saw Serena shift dramatically, right?
Yeah.
From publicly loving that my body is not picture perfect, smelling like milk, to achieving this significant physical transformation with medical assistance, with the GLP-1 treatment, and displaying those results with total confidence.
A huge shift.
A huge shift. So the question I think we want to leave you with is this. What does this dual public messaging, this simultaneous embrace of imperfections versus actively pursuing transformative change with powerful medical tools, what does that tell us about the complex and constantly evolving nature of celebrity, self-care, and self-love in the modern era?
That's a great question.
I mean, does this demonstrate that true self-love in 2025 means using every tool available to optimize your well-being, even if those tools challenge our traditional ideas of what natural effort is?
It's a conversation worth continuing, and it's one that really shows the complexity of navigating life, body goals, and evolving science under the brightest of spotlights. Keep asking those big questions. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.